If you're new to my channel, this is another one of my did he pass or didn't pass sharpening examination for the International Scissor Sharpeners Association. I'm Bonnie Megowan of Bonika Shears, and we do little evaluations of shears, and I thought you'd like to see whether this person passed or not. Now, to kind of let you know a little bit about myself, I like to watch what some people call with really boring videos on YouTube. I'm a real YouTube junkie. And I watched a video, actually on my TV, not on my phone, but The Path to Mastery with Roger Kneebone from Gresham College. And I'll put the link up here. And he talks about what does it mean to become an expert? What does it mean to become a master? And the reason I brought this up is that even if this person passes, this does not mean he's an expert or a master. It means that he's gone one step along on his journey. And in the lecture, he's talking about the apprentice, the journeyman, the master, and then really beyond master is the expert. I feel like I've mastered my craft. I've been certified as a master sharpener. I don't feel like I've arrived totally as an expert. And I'm learning this journey along with you. But does anyone ever know everything to do with their field? I don't think so. Maybe they know more than other people, but they don't know everything. So we're going to look and see what this person who's from the USA, and supposedly he's watched my other videos, and I have a lot of them. You're going to have to link up here to my playlist and watch some of the other videos, especially the one on how I damaged the shears, to see if he passed with this first time attempt. And he's already done there's a written test, and he's done the written test, and he's passed and got the correct answers for everything. So let's take a look at these shears, and hopefully this is a short video. So let's pull these out. I'm not going to show you his name. He sent a $20 bill for us to send them back. We don't send them back unless you pay the shipping to go back. And, you know, if you're in another country, it may not be worth it. So this is the Annabelle Diane shear that we've just started using for our certification. The beveled edges will change occasionally. The convex edges have been pretty much the same, so I'm going to pull both of them out. And the first thing we do is test and see if they cut just as they are, without really doing any examining or anything else. I'm using really cheap single ply toilet tissue. And the cheap single ply, even during the worst of the pandemic, you could always find the cheap stuff. You might not be able to find the good stuff. So I'm going to cut dry with these shears. I'm already feeling something. I'm feeling they're kind of loose, so I might be, yeah, look at there. See? And I can tell you already, that's a loose screw. Look at that. See, that should be a lot tighter than that. This shear, when you see these light handles, and that's something you should know, when you see like a plastic handle like this, they're going to need to be a little bit tighter than other shears because you don't have the weight of gravity closing them. So if it didn't cut dry, I know it won't cut wet, but I'll test it wet. Let's see if this one cuts dry. And that one's going to be loose too. It might cut though. Let's see. It cuts dry. Pulled a little bit at the tip. Let's see if they cut wet. My bevel edge one first. I'm pulling my thumb out. Least pressure possible. And no cut at all. That tore, but that's not a cut. Nope. So I can tell you right now they didn't pass. But let's take a look at them really close to figure out why. This one I can already tell you one of the reasons it didn't pass is it's too loose. Let me see if I see anything else that's on here that I would see as a flag. No, I don't see anything else that's a flag. I mean, is maybe the tip's a little pointy. I think I would round that off. But just for the fun of it, let's tighten this screw and see if it cuts with the screw tight. And I'm going to loosen it back up. Okay, I turned it a quarter. I turned it that much. And it doesn't move at all coming down. But with these light handles, you probably don't want it to. And it's still not cutting. Okay, so it's more than just a loose screw. We're going to have to look at this a little closer. This feels sharp. You see how it grabs and tears my skin here? But it's... It's almost like there's two different angles here. I'm going to let you look at this with me. You see the little line right along the edge? See, it's like one angle and then another angle. Looking at these close, and I think I see what's going on. I'm going to show you and see if you see what I'm seeing. You know, these International Scissor Sharpeners Association evaluations don't get old. It's like every one I see something different, something strange. And this one, this is what I'm seeing. And you tell me if you don't see the same thing. We're looking at the inside of the blade right here. Looking at the inside of the blade right here. And, okay, that side right there is the back side, not the cutting edge. Do you see that? All right, what that's telling me, it looks like, and I would have to find out from the sharpener. I'd love to see him sharpen. It looks like he was working the inside surface. Yeah, and you can kind of see without even putting it in the magnifier. Do you see? It's kind of looks like it's sort of scratches in there. He worked the inside of the blade without taking it apart. And because, see if I can explain this. Because shears aren't flat, they're slightly down. Here we go. So if I were to lay this flat, like this, the ride line would not be flat, or these don't even have a ride line, but let's say the front edge, the cutting edge would not be flat. This still has, even though it's mostly flat, it still has a little bit of a hollow to it. So that little bit of hollow would mean that the cutting edge would be up a little bit, because this is lower than what it should be. So it means that cutting edge is going to be a little bit this way. So when the blades come together, they're really not meeting. And I think that's what my issue is. This is like a detective show doing these things, because I'm not watching how they're sharpening. I'm having to guess. So I'm actually closing them and looking. Yeah, when I look straight down like this, I've never really done this before, but I'm investigating it. It looks like both the back of the blade and the cutting edge are sort of not separated, or sort of beveled away from each other. I'm going to let you look at that with me. This is kind of interesting. Can you see how they're now obviously there's supposed to be a gap between the blades, which is, there is. But at the place where they touch, well, they are actually coming together. I don't know. Let's see how they cut hair. Well, they cut hair. cutting hair. They're just not cutting my dry tissue. Well, now it's cutting my dry tissue. I did tighten it, remember? Pulling my thumb out. It's just not cutting wet. It does cut dry. It's not cutting wet. Look at that. Just a slight difference in pressure of my thumb. It's making the difference. If I actually put my thumb in here, see, it'll cut wet, but it's raggedy. I'm not sure what he did. But it needs to at least cut dry, if not wet. And it does cut hair. So I'm sending it back. Let me loosen it to where it was before, which like a quarter of a turn. So you need to tighten it first and then figure out why it's not cutting. I'm thinking if you just go over the edge again, don't do anything to the inside other than maybe cut off the burr. If you want it to smooth it out with a nail buffer or something gently, just don't add to, if there's a little bit of a downward slope here at the edge, just don't add to that. Looks like you left this side alone, which is probably the right thing to do. Maybe you went over it with a pink ceramic stone slightly, but so that one's going back. Let's see on this one. That actually looks pretty good. Feels good, nice and smooth. Tips rounded. Feels sharp. Nicks are pretty much gone. I felt a teeny one back in here. That's one of the prettiest convexes and shiny I've seen. So why isn't it cutting wet? My theory is the screw needs to be tighter. Let me try it again. See, it's not cutting. Let's tighten it. And this will click. Did one click. I'm going to do 2 clicks. And give it a good wiggle. Checking to see if I feel oil in there. Yeah, he oiled them. Alright. Let's see what happens. I gave it 2 clicks and wiggled it. Still not cutting. So the outside looked great. It's got to be something to do with the inside. Let me get one that cuts and compare the two. So this is number 28-173, one from a previous one that's not nearly as pretty on the outside, but it passed because it did cut. You see how nicely it cuts? But it doesn't look nearly as pretty. But what I want us to look at together is the difference between the ride line on this one. This is not a perfect example. But I want you to look at the ride line, how small it is, and how it's the angle of it, okay? See, it's hardly any ride. The ride line is at this part right here where my nail is pointing. And because sometimes it's hard to see which is the sharp edge. And it's a very thin ride line. Do you see that? It's there. It's very thin. Now, I want you to look at the ride line on this one that doesn't cut. It's a wide ride line, but you see how it kind of almost angles down? You see how there's a ride line kind of on both sides of the blade a little bit? You see how it looks like it's angled down? I have to turn it for it to focus. See, if I'm just laying it here, it doesn't focus, but I have to turn it to focus. It looks to me, and I'd like to see him sharpen these shears and see how he's doing it, or find out exactly what he's doing. Let's see if this cuts hair. The last, you know, the beveled edge cut hair. And so what, you know, if it cuts hair, but it's not perfect, you know, you could be enjoying a good bit of business and still, you know, actually making money and being a profitable sharpener. Let's see this. This is cutting. Back in the back it pushes, but that's kind of understandable. Most shears will push in the back. Pushes a little bit at the tip, but you'd give it to a stylist and they would say it's good. Well, now if I click it back to like it was before, which was right here, and let's see if it cuts hair at that point. Pushes quite a bit more. I don't know, these had me baffled. If you're watching this and if you think you might know what the deal is, they both cut hair. Neither one of them will cut the wet tissue. They wouldn't cut the dry tissue until I tightened them. You see, even at the tip. See, it pulls at the tip. Yeah, it pushes at the tip. Alright, I'd like to send these back. I am baffled after doing and checking so many of these. Not really totally sure why they're not cutting. Would love to talk to the sharpener and see what he's done, but he's done a beautiful job of convexing this and making it shine. I'm going to let y'all look at this. So that might have been better than what I could have done. I mean, so I'd like to know what polish he's using. I'm impressed with that, but let's try again. Hopefully I'll have another video following up where he'll tell us what he did differently the first time, that he's done different the second time that they pass, because they're cutting hair, they're close to passing, they look beautiful, they're smooth, they're quiet, and they're just not cutting. So, mystery. Stay tuned. If you have any suggestions on what you think's going on with this, let me know. Make sure you subscribe, hit the bell notification, so when I get them back, you'll know and can find out what's going on with me. If you want to do the certification, let me know. Hopefully, I'll be able to pass you the first go around, diagnose why you didn't pass, and this one has left me with a little bit of a mystery. I'm thinking it's, you know, the loose screws, number one. And then number two, it looks like the ride line on both of them might be ramped. And that's a little bit hard to do without going back and resharpen them correctly. Which, if he doesn't want to recertify on these or retry on these, I'll be glad to resharpen them and see what happens. That would be fun too. So, these are going back.